Hello, my name is Janice, and I am a health science major at Dominican University of California, and my capstone project is about interracial friendships and symptoms of depression and anxiety among college-age Filipino Americans. Filipino Americans are the second largest Asian American population in the U.S. Studies have shown that Filipino American youth have reported higher depressive symptoms and higher rates of suicide ideation compared to other ethnic groups. While scrolling through literature about Filipino American mental health, I came across research done by Chang and Sampson published in 2018. What I found interesting about this study is that they found that those who had 3 or more non-Filipino friends were more likely to have symptoms of depression and anxiety. They also found that friendship discord was significant in mediating this relationship. I would also like to note that their data was from a survey that was done between the years 1995 to 1999 in San Francisco and Honolulu. And what also caught my interest is that this study suggested to examine the relationship of colonial mentality and interracial friendships. So what is colonial mentality and why is it important? Colonial mentality is internalized oppression that fosters the mentality to reject ethnic values. The Philippines was colonized by Spain for over 300 years, and then after under American rule for the next 48 years. So for many years, Filipinos were forced to learn a new culture and be ashamed of their indigenous values, and this mentality has been carried throughout the generations. David and Okazaki, notable authors in researching colonial mentality, have found that colonial mentality had a significant effect with depression among Filipino Americans. So what are the goals of my study? First, I would like to examine the association between interracial friendships and symptoms of depression and anxiety among college-age Filipino Americans. I would also like to see if my results are consistent with previous research. Lastly, I would like to fill the gap and find a relationship between friendship discord and colonial mentality. For my research, I chose to do a survey. My survey population included participants who were Filipino American, between the ages of 18 to 25, and currently living in the San Francisco Bay Area. After cleaning my data, I was able to include 298 responses in my dataset. I contacted Filipino American organizations around the Bay Area by email, text message, and word of mouth. I also posted my survey on my social media platforms such as Twitter, Snapchat, and Facebook. I used Qualtrics to form and create my survey, and my survey included questions that asked about demographics and health behaviors. I also asked how many close non-Filipino friends an individual had. I asked questions of depression and anxiety, questions of friendship discord with their non-Filipino close friends, questions about ethnic value, a discrimination question, and questions about colonial mentality. For my results, I used SPSS version 22 to analyze the data. My first table shows the relationship between depression and anxiety in all variables. You can see that in this table that having 3 or more non-Filipino close friends has no significant association with depression and anxiety. This result is inconsistent with previous findings, which I will later discuss. I also found that friendship discord, low ethnic value, everyday discrimination, colonial mentality, and tobacco use had a significant association with depressive and anxious symptoms among Filipino Americans. This next table shows my regression model with depression and anxiety and all predictors. Everyday discrimination and friendship discord are the best predictors for depression and anxiety. This table shows that those who are depressed have 3.01 times the odds of experiencing everyday discrimination compared to those who are not depressed and anxious. Also, those who are depressed and anxious have 2.49 times the odds of experiencing friendship discord compared to those who are not depressed and anxious. This table shows my bivariate analysis of colonial mentality. It shows that there is a significant association between friendship discord and low ethnic value with colonial mentality, meaning that those who had high colonial mentality were more likely to have friendship discord and low ethnic value. While analyzing my data, I was able to find results that are consistent with previous research as well as new findings. My results show that there is no significant association between interracial friendships and symptoms of depression and anxiety among college-age Filipino Americans. A reason for that may be due to the generational gap. Previous research participants were mostly foreign-born, whereas majority of my participants were born in the US. Therefore, they are more assimilated to the diverse American culture, so making friends outside of the ethnicity may not be a huge challenge, especially when living in the Bay Area where we have such a diverse population. Another main result that I found was that those who had high friendship discord were more likely to be depressed and anxious. This finding is consistent with past studies. Having peers and close friends is important, especially for young adults. So when there are challenges in those friendships, then it can cause great psychological distress. I also found that those who were depressed had 3 times the odds of experiencing everyday discrimination, which is consistent with previous research that shows that discrimination greatly affects Filipino American mental health. Lastly, I found that friendship discord, low ethnic value, and depression are associated with having high colonial mentality. These results are consistent with David and Okazaki's research that shows how colonial mentality negatively affects Filipino Americans' ethnic values and is also associated with depression. To my knowledge, this is the first study that has examined the relationship between friendship discord and colonial mentality, so further research is needed to explain this association. Although my study has strong results, it also has its limitations. One limitation is that since it is a cross-sectional study, it is difficult to determine whether the exposure or the outcome came first. Another limitation is that it is prone to responder bias, especially when self-reporting about health behaviors. Participants may have been reluctant in answering these questions truthfully, even though they knew that their responses were anonymous. Lastly, my study failed to have an even ratio of female to male participants. I had a larger number of females than males, and this may be due to the population of my followers on my social media platforms, meaning that I probably have way more female followers than males. So unfortunately, my population was not properly randomized. For future research, it would be great to include qualitative research to obtain a deeper understanding of friendship discord, ethnic value, and colonial mentality. Including qualitative research will provide more personal and more detailed response for the results. Another suggestion is to include more questions about friendship quality to further examine a deeper understanding for the friendship discord variable. Lastly, adding questions about participants' relationship with their family may be helpful with future research. Family is an important aspect in Filipino culture and may play a role in ethnic value and colonial mentality. Authors David, Okazaki, and Nadal published a book called Brown Skin, White Minds. This book is about Filipino American post-colonial psychology. And since my research showed how colonial mentality can greatly affect Filipino Americans, I thought it would be great to share a colonial mentality intervention that was proposed in this book. The intervention is called FADE, and it stands for Filipino American Decolonization Experience. And the best way to go about decolonizing the mind is by following these 4 steps. First step is to develop a more accurate understanding of Filipino history and culture. Next step is to take what you learned from Filipino history and connect it with modern-day life. Third, you want to become more aware of how colonial mentality affects you as well as the people around you. Lastly, take social action and continue to educate yourself and others about how to decolonize the mind. Overall, my study has taught me a lot about Filipino American mental health. It has also shed light on how much work we have to do as a community to help our Filipino Americans when it comes to colonial mentality and friendship discord. I hope my work inspires Filipino American organizations to implement ways to tackle mental health and promote how we can be proud of our identity as a Filipino American. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation on interracial friendships and symptoms of depression and anxiety among college-age Filipino Americans.